For a long time, I struggled to find a good response against the Sicilian defense, until one day I learned how to play the Delayed Alapin variation, which is a very good opening to fight against the Sicilian defense that gives you some really nice positions, and it's also full of traps that you can apply against your opponent. But before we start talking about the moves, I will suggest you to subscribe to the channel if you're still not. I post new videos every day explaining openings, tricks, traps, and tactics, things to improve your chess in general. So what are you waiting for? It doesn't cost anything and it's very easy to do. You just click in the button down below and subscribe to the channel. Now let's take a look at the moves. So here we have the starting position of the Sicilian defense. You're going to be playing e4 and your opponent plays c5. This is the starting position of the Sicilian defense. And from here, you're going to trick your opponent into thinking that you are going to play an open Sicilian. So they are expecting you to play d4 in your next move, but that's not what you're going to do. You're going to play a different variation. You're going to play the Delayed Alapin variation. So your opponent's going to play a normal move like d6 or maybe knight out, a typical move from Sicilian defense players, right? So if your opponent goes for this move, or even if they go for the knight here, you're still going to play the same moves. You're going to play c3. And the idea here is you're playing c3 to prepare the advancement on d4. And as your opponent takes the pawn, you're going to recapture and have a very strong white center. And it's very hard for your opponent to gain any advantages over you. So here, that's the intention behind the Delayed Alapin variation. And we're going to take a look what happens if your opponent follows the typical moves, like, for example, let's take a look first at this move right here, knight to c6 before knight f6. This is the main line, actually, knight to c6. But we're going to take a look at like a normal move. If your opponent responds with typical moves from the Sicilian, like developing the knight to c6, you're just going to continue with your plan, playing d4. And if your opponent takes, you take back with the pawn. You have a very strong center. And if your opponent continues developing their pieces and going for, I don't know, maybe like a typical dragon setup that is very common, you're going to have a very easy game, developing your pieces very easily. You can develop your knight, you can bring your bishop out, castle next move, bring your other bishop out, bring your rook to the open file. Now you have the c open file to contest against your opponent. And this is just a great game for white. It's very easy to develop the pieces. They have very natural squares to go to. So if your opponent goes for this, it's very easy. You can always push d5 as well to kick this knight away. You can go for this move, you can go for this move and castle very quickly. Again, putting your rook here, it's very easy to play and you get some really nice positions. But the very strong point of the Delayed Alapin lies in this very interesting move right here. If your opponent goes for the main line, which is knight f6, attacking your pawn and forcing you to think about moves that go against your idea, which is protecting this pawn right here and not playing d4, which is your main idea in the first place, we're actually going to set up a little trap here by playing this quiet move, bishop to e2. So when we play this move, we're actually giving away this pawn. So we're just asking our opponent, come and take it. We're offering this pawn to our opponent, but it's a trap. So if the opponent goes for this, capture and take the pawn, they're actually losing a piece here. It's a losing move because we have this check, queen a4 check, for king, you know, the king and the knight, and we're just winning a piece. They're going to block the diagonal. We just take the knight and we're up a piece. And from here on, it's just trading pieces to a very easy endgame and winning and, you know, converting this winning position. Your opponent, of course, doesn't have to take this pawn. They can go for something different. When you play bishop to e2, instead of taking the pawn, they can go for like a different move, for example, knight to c6, and this is blocking the diagonal, so there's no way this check is going to work anymore, or there is. So we're going to take a look. So we're going to still play d4 no matter what. We're still going to go for our plan, and again, offering this pawn to our opponent, and if now they take because they think, oh, I have the knight here blocking the diagonal, so it's not possible to have that check against me, and they go for this take, you know, this capture, we're going to play a very interesting move here, d5. And now we are attacking this knight, forcing it to move away. and as it moves away, no matter where it goes, we're just going to apply the same trick, check, and they block the diagonal. We take the knight, and we're up a piece in this position as well. So your opponent should be careful here not to take the pawn in this position as well. So when we push d4, what your opponent should be actually doing is taking the pawn here with the pawn and then capturing this. So let's take a look. First, c is going to take, c takes d4, we capture back with our pawn, c takes d4, and now they're going to take the pawn. Now they can do that, because even if we push this pawn to d5 and kick this knight away, they actually have a really nice move here. Black has this tricky check, queen a5 check, and now our check here doesn't work anymore because the queen is protecting here. So there's no way this trick works anymore, right? So they're going to go for this check. We're going to block the check with the knight, knight to c3. And here lies another trap. If your opponent takes the knight and you take back with the pawn, and your opponent thinks, well, I can win a pawn here and take this pawn, actually they can't. So when they take this pawn, they're actually again losing a piece due to this move right here, bishop to d2, and now we have the bishop attacking the queen and the pawn attacking the knight. They cannot protect both of them, so they're gonna have to lose something. Of course, they're gonna try to save the queen, and they're gonna lose the knight in the process. So here, they're actually losing a piece. So instead of taking this pawn in this position here, they should actually play something different. So instead of taking the pawn, they should put this knight here, for example, which is the main move. They play knight to e5, and then we trade knights. They take the pawn now with check and attacking the knight at the same time. So this is a position where they are actually forking your king and knight. So when we play bishop to d2 in this position, they can actually go ahead and take our knight. So this is pretty much equal now. We're going to castle in this position. Opponent's going to take the pawn in the center. And we have a great game after rook to b1. And you might be wondering, but Victor, opponent is up like 3 pawns. We're down 3 pawns and this position is good. Yeah, according to the engine here, position is actually equal. It's zeros. But it's much better for white because we have a lot of attacks here and black has to defend, and it's always good to be on the attack here. So we're actually aiming at this pawn right here, and we have some very easy threats that we're going for here. The main threat in this position is actually playing the bishop here. So this is the main move that we're going to try and go for. Playing the bishop out, checking the king here. This is our main threat right now. And we also have this little threat right here, trying to attack this pawn. Okay, so it's very hard for black to defend here. If they try to do any other move, let's say, for example, trying to protect this square and prevent our bishop to come here, we can actually play bishop here. We can play this move, and we're now winning this pawn, and the queen has to move. It's a very good game for us. We have a lot of open lines. This is a great opening against the Sicilian Defense. And if you liked this video, if you found this opening very interesting, please like and comment down below. If there's any line that you would like me to analyze a little bit better, please comment as well. I'd like to thank you guys for all the subscriptions and the support you guys are giving me. And I see you guys as always in the next video.